The Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Pride Seeds, Nodulator Pro, and Cruiser Max Vibrance Beans.
We're at the Crop Connect conference here in Winnipeg, and pleased to be joined by John Lee up from AgVise Laboratories. And John, last year we saw a lot of yellow beans in Western Canada, the northern U.S. Iron deficiency chlorosis, one of the contributing factors behind that?
It certainly was. We had conditions that really kind of set us up for that. We had a really wet 2016, which brought a lot of salinity to the surface. Salinity is one thing that makes the IDC worse. We had cool, dry conditions early in June, which kind of set us up again for the cool conditions, brought the chlorosis to a peak. And I think there was many more soybean acres that maybe didn't get planted to the most tolerant, IDC tolerant varieties because there were so many acres put in. Many of the varieties that got planted probably didn't have the IDC tolerance that they needed. So hopefully going forward this year, we have people picking fields that have lower carbonate numbers, lower salinity numbers, which leads to less chances for IDC. They can avoid some of those fields maybe that shouldn't have soybeans on them, and that will help tremendously. I know there's a lot more acres going to be planted to soybeans the way it looks, and that's fine. They just need to be aware of what the risk is for IDC in each of those fields.
Okay. Are you seeing the numbers in the soil tests supporting the idea that there are more carbonates and that there are more salts in that profile where soybeans draw their nutrients from?
Well, I think many people haven't tested for carbonates in the past because it's not really a nutrient. It's something that creates a higher risk for IDC, and if you haven't planted soybeans before, there was no reason to test for carbonates. So now they're testing for carbonates, getting that inventory, that carbonate inventory on all of the fields, so they can determine a pecking order for which fields should have soybeans first and which ones they may want to avoid. Once they have that information along with salinity, then they can just make educated decisions as to where the beans go, the risk of iron chlorosis, where they should put the really tolerant varieties, and where maybe they can put varieties that don't need that IDC tolerance that are racehorse varieties.
Mm-hmm. So going ahead for 2018, I guess we need rain for other reasons, but an early rain might mitigate some of the IDC risk for this year?
Yeah, if we get some snow in March and some rain in April to move the salinity back out of the root zone, that would be very helpful. That would help with IDC going forward.
Okay. In terms of overall managing approach to we have these increasing soybean acres, are you seeing any trends in your lab in terms of what we're seeing for what's happening in the soil with the nutrient profile, with some of these issues that show up in soil tests?
I don't think there's any really big surprises as we expand the areas where the soybeans go and the other crops in the rotation, wheat, canola, whatever. No big surprises, just probably more soil testing being done because they need to have information to make decisions. And as the crop budgets get closer and making a dollar gets harder to do, soil testing just helps them make better decisions.
Okay. Are we seeing phosphorus levels being drawn down at all with more beans in the rotation?
Soybeans in particular remove more than some of our historic crops, particularly phosphorus and potassium actually, compared to a wheat crop, for example, would remove 20 pounds of potassium, whereas a similar yielding soybean crop would remove 60 pounds with the grain. So it's something to watch out for. You know, many of the soils in Manitoba and Saskatchewan and Alberta have high native potassium levels, so it's just something to keep an eye on. We could probably mine them for quite some time before we run into trouble, but at some point that's going to be an issue in the future.
It's something, though, that we haven't really thought of maybe in the past with our previous rotations.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thanks for your time and enjoy it. The rest of Crop Connect here in Winnipeg, John.
Thanks.
Thank you.